a very backline heavy, you want to play with your team kind of mid laner. But when these high level, high mechanic players get their hands on a hero like Gord, for some reason it just feels like a Valentina. They flicker forward with the Mystic Gush, they find the Mystic Projectile, they find those big damn moments, and somehow they become the X factor. But in a way where, you know, we can say that for the mid lane, it's been very, very boring when it comes to the heroes. I think it's also been very amazing when it comes to the impact of a mid laner in the game. Like, it's been the complete opposite. As a mid laner, you have so much to say in the game. I think for the longest time, even from the previous patch, the mid lane has been dominating in my region, I think in the Philippines as well, for damage dealt. Usually we see the gold laner, the jungler, maybe even the XP if you give him someone like a Benedetta, Paquito, the damage dealers, like a CC as well. But the mid lane with the Valentina, even the Fermis, I think with the changes of the emblems and the changes of how the first few turtles are so prioritized, the mid lane has gotten so much more prio. And that's why the really, really good mid laners shine so much more than the average mid laners. Technically, we can also bring the first match to, you know, try to give you guys a little bit of that visualization, the visual representation, because in the first game alone, the Lunox was able to deal so much damage. I think even more than the carry, even more than the jungler. So the mid lane has had such a big impact in how you can carry the game. Yorichi, I believe it was for Tunisia. So we'll see for Namibia and South Africa if they're able to replicate that kind of style, if their mid laners will be able to have that much of an impact, or will we see those assassins come through again? Because if you have an assassin in the jungle, usually you go for a bit more utility in the mid lane. It's a give and take every single time, and that's what makes this very diverse and multidimensional meta. And with that, we're going to get straight into the draft of game number 1 of match number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, Doofenshmirtz on the red side.
With Twinkerbell. So, you know, when you were talking about that, I know we're getting through this first phase too. Like, who would have thought that you would see a Lunox in that first game? You know, I mean, I know that it's kind of a niche pick. It does work, but it popped up. The damage was obviously there. It always has been. Like, that's why, you know, you do pick up the Lunox pick. But you know, it was nice to see because it's a deviation from what we're used to seeing. So as we get through the first phase, Chip, Esmeralda being banned out first. That's interesting, but I know how strong, like, Esmeralda has been popping off lately, man. If you've just been watching even some of the, you know, competitive streams going on, you know how deadly this Esmeralda is right now.
And I think it's also a really good setup for Namibia right now. Namibia is on the left, ladies and gentlemen, on the blue side, and it is going to be South Africa on the red side. But with that Esmeralda ban, it actually sets up really well for an Angela or a Harith. My, you know, choice definitely has to go for the Harith if it does get left open into the first phase pick for Team Namibia. Harith has just been such a broken hero. I think we can say broken there for Harith. I think if there's one hero that you can call broken, it's got to be the Harith in this meta. I think in both the Philippines and Indonesia, I think you can add in Malaysia as well. Harith in the playoffs was 100% win rate. It was standing still at 100% win rate even after the end of it all. And yeah, after the first time that we did see the Harith in our regions, it got banned. You never get to see the Harith again. So never mind. Actually, right on cue, we were talking about how broken the Harith is. We were talking about maybe how they were going to set up for the Harith, but there's another thing that they could be setting up for, which is the Angela. Crazy shielding with a hard guard. The Esmeralda could go for it, but they actually go for the Mathilda instead. Something that can and has been able to utilize a lot of that shielding, with the Blood Wings also getting changed. Photo Blood Wings has been the way to go for the Mathilda, but then the Roger gets picked up here. They might be going for an early game-centric composition, and I think right now the big question is, do they want to deny the Barats away from that Mathilda pick?
Oh, I think it would be good, considering the fact too Fredrin was banned out, but they go to Yuzhong. Man, Yuzhong right now, it feels like it is the pick so far. You know, at least in the second match. Interesting. It should be in hover, not locked in just yet, but the Yuzhong so far is so deadly for a lot of these lineups, and it does pair up with a bunch of different ones. So it looks like they're going to go ahead and lock in the mid lane also just off the bat. They lock in the Vex. So this is interesting when you have this already in the first phase. And there's the Angela, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, with the Esmeralda ban, you would definitely expect the Angela to be prioritized over the Mathilda, that crazy shielding, especially now considering you were just talking about how the Yu Zhong has been phenomenal in this meta, in this brawly team fight, early game-centric meta when neutral objectives have so much prio. The Yu Zhong with the Black Dragon form can force out a lot of these team fights to happen, can even zone out a lot of members. And when you add in the added threat of a hard guard on top of that Black Dragon form, on top of that sustain, he gets the constant healing from the Angela hard guard, and you know, those blooms, those waves, even the Roger. Both these picks so far for South Africa are really threatening, man. The Roger, Yu Zhong, plus the Angela, and they ban out the Xborg, so they're already trying to play with these beefy members, and I think they might add on to it in the second phase. But whoa, Florin ban.
Interesting ban.
I guess they're anticipating the Angela to be the mid laner.
Mid lane. Yeah. Like for me personally, I don't like Angela in the mid lane. I think you guys over in ID too, like you kind of have your thoughts on Angela in the mid lane. But I guess just to cover the base, they go ahead and ban it out for now from Namibia. They'll deal with that. And I think also the fact that you have this combination between the Matilda with the Ixia, it solves the problem with Ixia. When she like plants up in the lane and then full barrages, you know, she's kind of like a sitting duck. Like she is a glass cannon. Like she's literally the epitome of a glass cannon hero. And so I think because you have the Matilda there, and you could even say to an extent, like Eternal Guard is like an extra body on the map to help kind of peel if you need it, even with the knockup. Like this is already a solid, interesting first phase for Namibia. But the answer, once again, is just damage. Like just go with the damage. They pick up the Natan. But look at this too, Alpha. Alpha comes through.
Great pick. I think they're anticipating another utility jungler to be picked up by South Africa here. And the Sylvana. Hey, we were talking about the crazy picks, and I did say as well that maybe this match, this game in particular, they will be going for those crazy picks. I said it, Namibia, back in 2022, back in Bali, they had their own version of MLBB that they like to play on stage, and it's kind of similar. You know, they fixed on a little bit of those issues that they had in 2022, and it's still that brawling style, but just with a bit more flair in it. Now you have the Ixia, the Alpha as well, but the Roger has been flexed into the jungle. They picked up the Natana now in the roam. I think it was game one, match one, that we were talking about the Edith. How more damage output has usually resulted in the team fighting teams getting more of an advantage. And so far, you also said it earlier, the damage output that South Africa has is ridiculous. They have a Natan for the late game. They have the Yu Zhong Roger brawl in the early game. And now to add on to that prolonged team fight, they've got an Edith. And it's for Doofenshmirtz, bro.
Doofenshmirtz on the Edith. Can't wait to see it. Twinkerbell in action too, man. I don't know, just with the two compositions so far that we have here locked in, this is expect the unexpected, you know, like this is that, because when do you see, you know, the fact that you're going to have even this combination? I'm actually really interested because we just, at least from what I recall, I haven't seen the Alpha and Sylvana combination. Like when have you possibly seen that? Maybe in your own ranked games? I don't know. Maybe some of you viewers out there have had that. But in competitive play, like how is this combination even going to work up? Because Imperial Justice, the ultimate of Sylvana, is actually quite deadly. And then the way that they pair this up with the maneuverability of having a Matilda, like you could actually do some crazy setups, whether that's the Sylvana or whether that's the Alpha. So like your initiation possibilities are almost endless.
But we're going to get straight into game number one. Ladies and gentlemen, of the second match of the day. Namibia takes on South Africa. Already a bit of a leash happening here. And it seems like for the start of the items, it's nothing too crazy. But interestingly enough, Wakao LeBron has opted to go just for mana. Wants to stay in that lane as much as he can. And he also has gone for the Impure Rage. So yeah, sustainability is number one priority right now. But definitely if I take a look at the other emblem, something that is a very interesting choice to go for has got to be that Lethal Ignition on the Natan. Virus is playing for Burst in the early game on the Natan, maybe possibly to win out in the trades up against a very sustainable Ixia. But this is a very different style of Natan that we are seeing here from South Africa. Usually we see the Quantum Charge for additional, you know, sustain in the lane, but maybe a weakness finder as well if you want more aggression. Never seen the lethal
Yeah.
ignition before, but I guess we'll have to see in this game.
This is new, right, from South Africa, and interested to see how it works. But like I said, that's a great thing. Anytime Matildas pick up, man, you play with this mobility factor that you have that other teams don't have when the Matilda isn't on their side. So that's the main thing. How are they going to utilize this? Look at this, already making the moves. Forcing Doofenshmirtz back. Of course, he's going to be fine, quite healthy himself. But even going to the lane matchups, like thinking about how does Sylvana match up against Yuzhong? Look at under the turret. Top lane looks like first blood, possibly. Okay.
Oh.
Damon stays alive, but this is what I was saying. Like, how is that matchup between the Yuzhong and the Sylvana, a hero that we don't often see? You know, and the damage output that can actually happen. Again, he didn't use the Purify, or the Petrify. Gambit didn't have to use it. So now they find themselves here with the first turtle being up. Doofenshmirtz gonna take a couple shots. Wisp, he's gonna be fine. Turtle will reset though. Both teams not fully committing. Dragon Form gonna be used though. There's the Heart Guard. They get the knock up on top of it. And now they're gonna force him down. Jimmy's the first to fall. Still gonna be going out, forcing them back even out of the jungle. D-Man popping the Vengeance, but he's gonna get knocked up time and time again with the Love Waves on top of it. As he falls and Turtle taken by Swag. And he wants to keep swagging on into the jungle. They're gonna force them out even further. Purple buff the next target. 2 kills already for South Africa. Can Namibia do anything about it? Knockups come through. Doofenshmirtz quite low. Pops out with the Primal Wrath now. Robin takes the brunt of the damage. Gambit will back off now. They're happy with what they took. Oh,
Well
hold
played.
on.
Oh,
Robin.
onward.
Oh, okay. He flickers out. Okay, I think it's settled down now. But man, what a start here for South Africa.
Really, really good resource management coming in from South Africa, right? The fact that you mentioned it earlier, man, for the Yuzhong, he actually saved the Petrifier. He didn't overcommit up against Demon. He waited for the right time. He knew that getting the Prio in the lane is simple enough on the Yuzhong, because for Demon, he really has to wait for the Imperial Justice so that he can be a threat in this game. And now he finally gets to that point where he does have the Imperial Justice, but for the first fight, it was definitely all for South Africa. We were talking about how the Yuzhong synergy with the Heart Guard was going to be a big threat to Namibia around the neutral objectives, and that's certainly enough exactly what happened. Right as he pops into Black Dragon form, he uses the Petrify to get behind enemy territory, and he just leaves Swag to get the turtle for free. Another onward though from Doofenshmirtz.
All down in the bottom lane. Spider trying to get out of dodge, but look at the jump with the Lycan Pounce under the turret. Jimmy also still dealing with it. Again, goes in. Swag still wants more. He bobs, he weaves, he gets a double. Looking for the triple. Robin gets out, though. Man, South Africa, it looks like they're just not letting up at all.
Not at all. They want to keep this pace. Their composition is built for that early game, you know? Everything except Virus. But technically on Anatan with the Lethal Ignition, you can kind of make a case for him being an early game hero as well. Because once he gets those abilities out, that Lethal Ignition starts ticking, and the early game gets so much more of a big bump in damage. Straight off though, you can see the timing for Team South Africa also just being crisp clean. They get the neutral objective right after they get that crazy team fight in the bottom lane. Doofenshmirtz, so far so good for all of his initiations as well, and I think the Heart Guard has been the spear front of these initiations, right? Because if it wasn't for the Heart Guard, I think they would have been punished a lot of these times. And even for the Yuzhong, now he's playing as the weak side. South Africa are playing towards the bottom lane. They're playing towards snowballing for Virus.
Oh, they're still playing that too on the top side. They're going to get taken down. Gambit going to be the one to fall. Twinkerbell not able to keep him up, but they're going to trade across the map. So 2 bodies for Namibia do fall, and now it looks like the tier 2 also in the bottom lane is going to fall. A couple of cross map plays happening for both teams, but right now it's still South Africa clearly ahead, really playing on the macro level even, you would say, because that's the thing with Angela picked up. You're running the focusing mark, you got that extra 6% damage that you can actually play around too, but so far it's just really playing around the power of cross map plays with the lineup they have. That's one great thing too about having the Heart Guard.
Gambit has been super impressive on this Yuzhong, and I think again it has got to do with the Angela, the Heart Guard you mentioned, plus the focusing mark obviously, but the fact that he gets so much sustain and they're looking for another pick. Doofenshmirtz!
Doofenshmirtz again under the turret, gets the knock-up. D-Man Owl just taken out in an instant. That's Doofenshmirtz.
Wow. Super crazy pickoffs around the map. Good usage of the conceal as well. And for now, Team Namibia cannot even withstand any of this damage. Full barrage in the bottom lane, but he gets outplayed. Virus with the help of the hard card. And Spider, he's going to be forced back. Look at the items, Naisu. For the Roger.
Oh, man.
My goodness, the 3 attack speed items, and he's already done with 2, so he should be able to hit that last item, the DHS that he needs in the 8th minute.
Swagger. That's where he's at right now, man. I mean, you're so confident, even just having Tinkerbell with you, able to use that hard guard, and now looks like they still want to fight. They do get this turtle. The turtle guard going to be dropped on them, but they will kind of deal with that disengage. But again, you can't count them out. Look at the lead they have. South Africa can actually force a fight under the tier 1 if they want to.
They can, and they will.
Actually, looks like they're going to go do that Dragon Form under. Lycan Pounce as well. Going to force them completely back. D-Man not able to do anything. Spear of Alpha also being dropped down into the full barrage. Virus, though, will stay alive. It's only Doofenshmirtz that goes down. But the 2-for-1 trade, and they'll get the tier 1 turret too. South Africa still dominating.
The longer the game gets, technically Spider 911, he is going to get very, very scary in this game on that Exia. So far, he only has a corrosion sight, by the way. Only just a corrosion sight. I think he did pick up a golden staff earlier, or maybe a DHS, because that damage is quite ridiculous just for a corrosion sight Ixia, who is 0-2-0, by the way. He almost took down Virus with a full barrage. Virus, still able to get away with the entropy. Very good use of that. And yeah, so far, the pace has been controlled by South Africa. There's nothing really that Namibia can do. They can go for these pickoffs as well, but it will really rely heavily on the Imperial Justice. If D-Man can get an Imperial Justice on Swag, maybe possibly Virus, then that's going to be good for them. But Virus and Swag are never in the front line. Probably the best thing you can get is Tinkerbell at this point for D-Man. And they get another onward Robin, stepping foot in the wrong bush and forced to flicker out. South Africa are controlling the map so well. Right after the lead, the 10,000 gold lead, they're playing in the enemy jungle. The enemy jungle is theirs at this point, and they're waiting for that purple buff. Freezing the lanes as well. Really good discipline, really good stuff from South Africa. I think at this point, they might not even go for the purple buff. They might just wait, look to shove the waves in time for the Lord to spawn in, and this is the first Lord of the game. With the 10,000 gold lead in the 8th minute of the game, they are beating the clock. They're going to go straight for it. Entropy, they're shredding through the Lord.
That's just, I don't know. I think that was like even faster so far than what we saw in the first match. Looking at the items too, like they're in the perfect position to just kind of transition this. I mean, look at where the items are falling into place. You talked about Swag earlier, you know, and he's still working now on that 4th item, going to be available really shortly here. But I think that's the thing for Namibia is how do you defend this and really even, hold on, Demon in trouble. Onward, Earth Shatter going to be used as well, has to use Vengeance. Gets the covering fire though with a full barrage. The rest of the team going to battle now. Demon will fall, Heart Guard going to be used, but they finally get the kill for Jimmy. And now they're going to get forced back with the Black Dragon form and still Swag waiting patiently in that bush. So it's only, everything exchange, it's only the 1-for-1, but the Lord still top side. Namibia can actually play around this. Even numbers, Doofenshmirtz isn't there to initiate this. So how does South Africa deal with this right now? Still, Lord going to be worked on. Jimmy taking tons of damage, though. Forced to back out, using the Spear of Alpha just on the defensive. Now they have to deal with this Lord. Eternal Guard going to be dropped down as well. Shield's already going to be popped on top of it. But so far, so good. Namibia holds on defensively.
Well played, man. That 1-for-1 was definitely in favor of Namibia. Furious dive earlier. Not able to catch anyone, but they'll just take this tier 2 with the entropy. Full barrage. Almost catching Tinkerbell. But they're calming down right now. They're slowing the pace down slowly but surely again. They've all the tier 2s taken away, right? With the first Lord, that's still absolute value. So despite the fact Namibia were able to trade 1-for-1, despite the fact that they were able to get rid of the Lord before South Africa could make good use of it, it's still valuable for South Africa. They get every single tier 2, and this allows them to enter the jungle even deeper. At this point, they might not even play in their own jungle. As you can see, for Gambit and Doofenshmirtz just constantly screening away at the enemy jungle, punishing Namibia for walking up in their own jungle. And if they do commit onto Gambit, it's still going to be really good for South Africa because they have that global presence. And that's really why the Angela was so prio, even in our first match. Banned by both of the teams in the blue side. First ban was Angela. Now we get to see the true threat of that Angela, especially on the red side when you have so many ways to pick up massive heroes on top of the Angela. You have that. I mean, at this point, everyone. I was about to say the Yu Zhong, the Roger pick. That's great with the Angela, but even Doofenshmirtz on the Edith. He can pop the Primal Wrath, getting the shielding, getting the sustainability of the Primal Wrath, and then the sustainability double down of the Heart card. Oh, man. So much sustain to be played with for South Africa. And for now, Namibia will just have to try to build up for Spider. Swag can walk up with a Hard guard. Look at that.
Wow. Look at the damage. I mean, I thought they were going to be able to set that up, but the Heart Guard just helped Swag so much. I mean, the Imperial Justice, you think he's going to land it? You think there's going to be a follow-up from Jimmy? It just doesn't happen. Damon goes down so quickly, and now Gambit going to wait patiently here while the team goes ahead and secures this next Lord. So it's going to take them a little bit longer. 12 minutes in the game. Second Lord will be able to march in. But right now, Namibia, I guess the one great thing they have is actually pretty good wave clear. If they can extend the game, which we talked about kind of extensively in match number 1, that's the best thing they can do right now. They need to probably buy, I would say, 5 minutes or maybe even 6, because Damon is just shut out of this game, man. He's had a very tough time with the Savannah pick. It was great to see, but so far it has not worked the way they wanted it to. But they have great clear speed, and they can do that just alone, even utilizing the full barrage. They just have to withstand a forced initiation, most likely from Doofenshmirtz. Virus going to pick up the Divine Glaive. There's the charge in from the Lord. Dragon Form going to be dropped as well. 2 turrets now down. Still going to fight. Damon in trouble, and the Heart Guard going to be on top of Swag, and everybody feels the damage from the Love Waves and the Onslaught as game 1 goes over in favor of South Africa.
3-man Furious Dive, Petrify combo to end game number 1. This time it wasn't the first Lord like in, the first match that we saw from Tunisia, but South Africa. We were talking about how Tunisia, later on in the tournament, we're going to see them go up against teams like South Africa, teams who understand the same core fundamentals that Tunisia understood. And this time around, it definitely looked, even though they didn't end it as fast as Tunisia, it looked more dominant for South Africa up against Namibia, right? They completely took over the game after the first 2 minutes. I think it was the first turtle there where, again, for Gambit, he was able to win that lane so early on without the use of the Petrify, forcing the Sylvana back and then utilizing the Petrify with the Black Dragon form and the Heart Guard to put the pressure down on Namibia on that first turtle. After that, the snowball just went crazy for them. It kept on rolling up to a point where they got 10,000. A 10,000 gold lead at the 8th minute of the game. At that point, they were beating the clock, Naisu. There was not much Namibia could do. They could only rely on the late game presence of the Ixia, but even then, what late game? They didn't even let him get into the mid game at that point, right? He only had a corrosion scythe, maybe max a golden staff. We'll definitely take a look at the items again later, but first game, absolute dominance from South Africa.
And so that makes me wonder, I know we still have another game, but it's like when you look at this kind of unfold and just how well executed the lineup was from South Africa.
Yeah.
I know it's too early, but it's like, man, now I want to see them go toe to toe with earlier first match.
Tunisia.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to think of all the names that we've seen so far today, man. But that's
Doofenshmirtz, Tinkerbell, which one are you thinking about?
Tinkerbell, all of them, man. It is what it is, and I love to call it, but that's the thing. Like the way they executed and played it, it was perfect. And when you look at the lineup that they have, that's the thing, man. You have an Angela. You talked about this hero specifically, and why it's actually banned out quite a bit from other teams. It's devastating. Like just alone having the focusing mark is already troublesome, and then you deal with the Heart Guard. And when you get a hero like Roger with Swag here, and he had the lead that he had, it's so hard to kind of deal with that pressure. Like we saw that earlier. Again, in theory, it looks like it would work really well. The Sylvana and the Alpha combination. You're literally trying to set things up with Imperial Justice, and then you can actually follow it up. Like if you somehow let's say you are able to catch 2 or 3 people, then you can just Spear of Alpha into the Imperial Justice, and it's actually a good wombo combo. You know, it's like in theory, but how hard was it to actually execute? Like that's what we saw from Namibia. That's what they struggled with so much. And you know, I would actually love to see that combination pop up again in the future. It's just like they couldn't play around with what South Africa had in store for them. And that's the thing. Ixia and Matilda is even a combination that works really well. But a lot of the times it was like your Ixia is putting down the full barrage literally just for covering fire. You know, there was a time I think you mentioned, America, where they're like, yeah, Corrosion Scythe was there. And I think they almost took out Doofenshmirtz, if I remember right. And so, like, if you had more time to build up an Ixia, you do get into a moment where you can actually turtle up in your base, defend in your base for minutes, and safely just whittle people down with that full barrage, you know, and then there'd be a follow-up from it. But, like, this is a similar thing that we saw in match 1 where it's like they do a very good job at ending games with the massive leads that they have. Because I know you and I both have seen this in our own regions where a team will have a 10,000 gold lead or an 8,000 gold lead. This even happened in both our playoffs. And somehow, some way, they let it slip through their hands. And so far, I'm so impressed with Africa right now, just the region as a whole, because from match 1 to match 2, if they have those leads, man, they will end them. They do not let them get into that position where it's like we could possibly let this slip through our hands and then the game gets turned around on our heads. Like we haven't seen that just yet. I know it's still early. It's only day 1. But so far, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Well, when they have this lead that they have, they finish the game. They know they have that lead. They will force it and they'll end it.
It just seems like they're just so much relaxed, so much more relaxed, I would say, right? Because when they have such a big goal lead, they're actually not scared to risk it all in these engagements around the base turrets as well. A lot of teams, they shy away from, you know, overextending in the base turrets, engaging in the base turrets. But I think it was also because they got the draft that enabled them to do so. They were able to use the Black Dragon form plus the hard guard to dive constantly. And if it doesn't end up with him getting a 3-man Furious dive, it'll definitely end up with him getting a free base turret. So I think the layers of forced errors for the side of Team South Africa, it was just amazing, right? They were always able to force these errors coming out of Team Namibia. And for Team Namibia, they were always forced to sacrifice something. If the Black Dragon form comes in and they decide to fight, they'll either risk getting absolutely obliterated by a team with a 12,000 gold lead. But if they don't do anything, then it'll just be a successful siege with the Lord that will end up with, you know, Team South Africa having a bigger lead, having the far lanes, and then going for the Lord again. So it'll just be a repeat. And for Team Namibia, I guess at that point, when you're already so far behind with a composition that desperately needs to be equal, at least at that point of the game, right? Obviously, optimally, you would want an early lead with that composition. You want that Imperial Justice, that combo that you were talking about. That was, sure, I mean, you also said it, you know, it's a combo that is very, very interesting, could work, but very hard to execute. Because even if you get the Imperial Justice down and, you know, the Spear of Alpha does combo together with that Imperial Justice, in that game particularly, it was just so hard to find Team South Africa clumped up. That's a Black Dragon form. You know, it was Gambit on the Yuzang. It was a Roger as well. All of them want to attack from different angles. So there was really a very small window of opportunity for that combo to work. And ultimately, we did see it get completely overshadowed by all of them just attacking from different angles. And at one point, you know, even the Roger swag could just go in all alone because he has the hard guard. We saw that damage. Yeah. I think for Wakal LeBron as well on the Vexana, not too much mid control that he was able to show. Not a lot of impact in that mid lane, despite going for the Impure Rage and the mana regen items early on to stay in that lane as much as possible. The Angela just was too big of a force, I think, in that mid lane. And we were talking about how in the drafts, mid lane Angela, we're not too big of a fan of that usually, right? Because it does force you to rely on the early game snowball for the Angela to just purely be utility. But hey, if you get the snowball going like that, if you have a 10,000 gold lead, that's where the Angela thrives. And it's just super unfortunate that the Angela got so far ahead to a point where not even the Vexana could handle her in the mid lane. That's a mage versus a support, by the way, right? That's a matchup that the Vexana should be able to win. But hey, that lead was a bit too much to handle.
Yeah, this And so that's what made it work, I think, because I will constantly defend that opinion. I will be like, I don't like Angela in the mid lane because I think there are a lot better options that fit in the mid lane, and like Angela's already a good enough roam. But this time around, when you get yourself that lead that they had, it's enough. Like that is enough in the early portion of the game to allow you to be like, all right, mid lane Angela works, because like now you can just do kind of what you want, and you can kind of heart guard where you need to because of just also the way that Swag was able to get where he was on that Roger. Like there was so much, like all the right things that could fall into place for South Africa fell into place, and that's why it worked so well. I think, you know, again, if Namibia was able to pull off their combo a little bit better, whether that was a wombo combo in those small windows that they had or not, I think we could have seen a different thing. But again, what happened in the early game, I'm talking about even before the first turtle or at the first turtle, that like paints the big picture of what's happening here for a lot of these games, and why by the time you get to that first Lord, so far I think we have seen, at least from the 3 games so far that we've seen, the 2 from the previous match and then this one, like by the first Lord, it's almost like a 10,000 gold lead, man. Like we actually have not seen a Lord dance yet. And it's like, that just hasn't been there for the teams, right? Because so far, like they dominate the early game so early. And I think that's one thing that we have to point out so far that we're seeing about just Africa as a region in general. And I can't wait to kind of test this hypothesis as the days goes on, man, because it's like so far they dominate the early game so much that their snowball is so effective that by the first Lord, there is no dance. There is no feeling out the fight. It's just like, all right, we're 8K ahead, 10K ahead. Boom, let's get it. Pow. Like we saw Pow do, you know, in the previous match. But, you know, that's what's happening here. Like so far. So that's what I want to know, if Namibia is able to kind of switch things up, get to a point where even if they just slow down a little bit, like slow down in the sense of not have these early deaths, not have these early mistakes, get to a point where you can actually dance off for the objectives. I think that's a big thing. And I think now that we've seen this first game, I think even you can speak on this, Mirko, since you talked about Namibia back in 2022 in Bali. Like, they're obviously different. You know, like this game 1 is, we can't take it as a whole like sample size. We need to see what happens in the next match or in the next game. But they were not able to execute, I think, what you would say you saw what they did 2 years ago. And I know it was a different team, but like that's the thing. We were questioning how much improvement or what has changed in the course of those 2 years. And that's going to be the case for all of the IESF participants as we go through this.
Well, I was expecting, you know, a refined version of what they were able to show off in, you know, the 2022 IESF in Bali. But it's, I would say it's a bit too similar to what we saw in Bali back then, because it was a very, very interesting combo they were going for. It was also very, very hard to execute. And we saw the exact same thing, just with different picks. We saw the Bauman last time with the Brawls. This time it was the Sylvana. And for Team Namibia, I would honestly have to say that just based on the draft alone, right? I wanted to see what was the vision behind that Angela ban, or behind the Angela being left open and the Esmeralda ban, because I expected, at least with the Esmeralda being banned out, for the Angela to come up, for these big shieldings to be able for Namibia to take it instantly right off the bat. But they completely ignored it and they go for the Mathilda. Mathilda, A-okay, no problem. And after that, you know, we do see the Yuzong and then the Roger. But then what was the plan of picking up the Ixia again? I think just a little bit of a lack of vision to what the prio is, right? Because even if they wanted the Ixia, that's not a bad pick at all. But why pick it in the first phase? When the first phase is so important to pick up these prio heroes, to at least deny some of these big picks from South Africa, because it almost seems like they banned out Esmeralda to set up for the Angela on the opposing team, you know, to set up for these big sustainable picks on the opposing team. They gave him the Roger, the Yuzong, and the Angela. That's possibly the best trio that you would want for the neutral objective battles in the team fights in the early game. And on top of that, you don't really build any presence in your, you know, trio for the fights in the mutual objective. The Sylvana, you're very reliant on level 4, and against the Yuzong pre-level 4, you saw exactly what happened. That's going to happen on a Sylvana up against the Yuzong, unless, yeah, sure, the Yuzong dives into the turret, you can maybe outplay, or you get an early gank in. So either they fix the execution, either they rotate a bit faster and get the Sylvana ahead earlier, or they go to prios, you know? It's cool that you have these cheese picks, you know, your own vision for the draft, but it gets to a point where the enemy team is just fundamentally beating you based on the draft. You're getting outdrafted.
That's what I think, man. It's like, as I was saying when we went through the draft, I was like, man, this Yu Zhang has popped up so far, 100%, right? He is that hero right now for the XP lane, especially. And we do know, like, Yu Zhang is statistically probably, if not the best, one of the best XP lane 1v1s. Like, as soon as he gets a lead, you're done. Like, it's a dead lane almost. And it wasn't even a kill. Like, just the fact that he was able to put so much pressure early on without even using the petrify, like, that's the scary part of it, you know? And so when you have that threat level with Yu Zhang, it's something that you have to deal with, especially when you're picking a hero like Sylvana. And I think you said it really well. It's like the vision for whatever they wanted to do, that they had the vision for that lineup, that composition. They weren't able to pull it off. I was thinking the same thing. You first ban Esmeralda, like, right off the bat, like, all right, Angela's the first pick. Matilda can work too. I mean, there's shields there. Yeah, like, there's 3 that I think of when you ban out an Esmeralda. It's Angela, Matilda, maybe a Lolita, like, for the most part. Like, those are the 3 that I'm thinking. And of course, like, you have Florin, you know, for sustainability and all that stuff too. But it's like, I think if they had taken that Angela first game, Namibia probably would have had a better time even because of just, even with a heart guard for utilizing the Sylvana, that would have kept Daemon alive a lot longer. You know, to Demon to deal with that. And it just did not happen. So again, we're going to jump into the draft here for game 2. We'll see how they change this, because I think that's really where it starts. And this is why I always love talking about draft, man. I know there's really smart men out there that we know that love to nerd out about the draft as analysts. And, you know,
I know the nerd you're talking about.
Yep, I know. Yeah, I know. And he loves it. He loves to nerd out about it. And you learn so much about exactly the impact of these first bans and these first picks in the first phase.
Yeah, and it's going to be the chip ban here for Team South Africa, who have swapped sides. So South Africa this time on the blue side, Namibia on the red side. And still, it's still going to be chip that gets banned out. Despite them being on the blue side, they do not want to pick it up themselves. Yi too. So, all right, just based on the pattern, you know, of the first game as well, when they were on red side, they banned the same things. They don't care that they swapped sides. They just really hate the teleportation in this game. They do not want to use it. They have their own style, and maybe the style is more of that team fighting, more of the individual leads that you can get over the macro prowess that you can get early on with these 2 teleports. But on top of that, I definitely want to, you know, ask for your opinion as well as I give out my opinion. But the Moskov has been non-existent in the African qualifiers here in day number 1 at least, right? And the Moskov has been such a prio pick everywhere else. Is it just, you know, the gold laners wanting to be in weak side, wanting to just farm it out and not wanting to participate in the early fights, or what's going on here? Because again, that's an Angela as well, finally now respected by Namibia, so a lot of global presence just getting taken out on the bans.
Minotaur too. Is this an Esmeralda first pick? Like, I know I'm going to answer that Moskov question, but, like, I'm wondering, are they going to go ahead and pick up Esmeralda here in the first phase? I don't know if it warrants the priority pick. There's no way. What? First pick Yin?
I mean, the new skin just came out. I guess man wants to play with that new skin. I really hope he plays with the new skin, by the way.
Okay, we're real quick before we nerd out some more about this. The Moskov has been slept on. Yeah, I agree. And it could just be a combination of, like, just comfort for the region. You know, they opt for those Nathan picks. Of course, we saw the Brody pop up earlier, but, like, this is, we're getting a little crazy here. Like, this is what we were asking for. And you know, you've got the Harith picked up with a Yin and a Carmilla combination in the first phase. and then you have Bane across from them. Mirka, what's going on?
Firstly, I want to ask if the Yin is even going to the jungle or not.
Or is
It should be in the jungle, I think. Exactly, right? I mean, the Carmilla is a flex. Technically, the Yin is a flex as well. We're known to see the Yin in the jungle. We've come accustomed to that. But I have seen a few, you know, streamers and people in the rank playing in the XP lane. And, oh, thank God. There you go. We got the Moskov that we were about to talk about. But all right, let's think about this. They have a Bane and they have a Moskov. I think they're trying to just split open the map in the side lanes, right? Again, don't know if the Bane is actually going to go to the jungle because it's still a very good flex pick. Technically, for Team Namibia, they can use it in the jungle, can use it in the XP. But I think with the Moskov pick, they have a very, very good goal lane. They can stay in that lane when South Africa want to go for these team fights. So maybe punish South Africa's team fight dominance by staying in the lane itself, by split pushing. And if that's really the idea, they have two very good heroes to fit in that style. The Bane that can split push, really, really good at taking turrets. Moskov that can teleport everywhere, some global presence there that clearly Team South Africa are not a fan of, right? That's why they banned the Lo Yi and the Chip. But then you see the Faramis ban and maybe you think, hey, is it not a split push composition? Maybe this composition is just purely team fight, because it can certainly do that as well. They have so much AoE, and with the Faramis ban, it kind of seems like that's the route they want to go for. Not the split push route, but more of a, yeah, let's battle it out AoE in these neutral objective vicinities.
And if it turns into that, like if it's just let's battle it out, this is the time for Carmilla to shine, man. Like this is where your Curse of Blood with your Zaman Force is supposed to shine. Like, yeah, that alone is enough to deal with this. Like, oh yeah, there's a deadly catch. You know, Moscow's gonna be popping off, bobbing and weaving everywhere, teleporting everywhere. But like, I think the combination of just the Curse of Blood and the Zaman Force alone is enough to actually win a lot of those exchanges and those fights. And if that also results in this Yin, which is our biggest question mark, great pick, by the way, the Kufra. But if Yin takes the Moskov into the ultimate of my turn, if he just takes him out, then you lose a ton of damage potential. And so part of the game plan can be like, yo, Yin, just grab the Moskov. Just get him. And that, all right, we're in a different dimension.
Oh my goodness.
This is what we want to see from Africa.
Absolutely it is. This is what we were expecting in game or match number 1, right? We were expecting these teams to go for damage output. And yes, Doofenshmirtz. What? They're not swapping. Is this real? Is Doofenshmirtz going to be playing the Yin Roam?
Twinkerbell's playing the new skin.
Twinkerbell, that's going to be the Hellcurt in the mid lane. Oh man, I'm just excited for this game. I don't know what they're going to try to pull off. I don't know if they swap last minute there, last second swap, or if you get straight into the game with these picks. I guess we'll just have to find out ourselves as we get into the land of dawn. But yo, at least this time we've gotten a crazy coin flip of a game, right? It's 50-50. It'll come down to the execution. They got so much damage output for both these teams, Namibia and South Africa. But remember, the utility for South Africa is ridiculous. They've got that Dark Knight Falls, and in a chaotic skirmish, oh, they can find so much value with the Dark Knight Falls here.
I think that's like the biggest, that's one of the biggest thorns in the side of a Moskov.
Yeah.
Like Darkness Falls, because you're like, whoa, where am I going?
Well, let's get straight into game number 2, ladies and gentlemen. The battle of the damage output. Will it be the Moskov, Bane, and the Karina? Or will it be the Yin, Harith, and the Hellcurt that comes out on top? And yeah, you're seeing it right, ladies and gentlemen. That's Doofenshmirtz on the conceal boots on Roam as Yin with the lethal ignition. Twinkerbell in the mid lane, the double assassin in the mid lane combination. Oh, this is going to be a very, very fun game, a very entertaining one at that.
This is the complete opposite of a hero that I would expect with an IGN Twinkerbell, man. Like the Hellcurt with Twinkerbell. So you know that, and part of it too is how well will this completely unorthodox lineup work? I mean, even if we break it down to the ultimates, you know, Twinkerbell's actually taken quite a bit of damage. It looked like that was even just dealing with the Kufra here, you know. I mean, not a lot is going to happen. He's just going to regen. He's going to be fine. But still, we're waiting till those level 4s. Doofenshmirtz, look at the damage he's outputting. He's going to get caught a little bit. Has to flicker out defensively. Now Twinkerbell on the hunt here. He's going to go in. Dashes on out just fine. But they might want to force the fight. Jimmy, though. First blood to Twinkerbell using the execute on top of it.
It's all about the layering of damage, and they're doing it so well. They go first with Doofenshmirtz baiting out that flicker, and even D-Man was forced to flicker in the bottom lane, and now they might actually be looking for a dive. 4 members have postured up top, but man, really good usage of the river movement speed. Oh, Twinkerbell! Oh, not a kill just yet, but yeah. Good usage of the movement speed in the river that directs you into the neutral objective, because they're playing on the opposite side and they utilize this composition's very, very big advantage of mobility to just go straight back into the bottom lane.
Yeah, this is very scary, because if you think about the threat potential in terms of damage, just from, you know, this lineup that South Africa has, it can actually really take down one member very quickly. Like, I'm talking about in seconds for Namibia. So they'll have to play around that. Zaman Force going to be dropped here. Virus 1 versus 3. So the rest of the team still rotating. Jimmy, though, might look to capitalize on this. They know the Zaman Force is down. They go in, jump in, has the ball energy. But Virus will fall in the top lane. We didn't get a glimpse of it, but he falls, even using the Purify here. So they kind of calm things down a little bit. Namibia able to get on the board here.
On the board in the second minute of the game, already an improvement compared to the last game. But again, this snowball is building very slowly but surely for South Africa.
Oh. Jumping again, penalty zone, they followed up. Twinkerbell able to get the kill. Gets on the board once again with the deadly stinger. So now sitting at 2-0, this is a great start for this interesting Hellkurt pick. Able to play through. They'll have to respond to some of the rest of the pressure, though, especially here on the top side. If they can get Spider 911 down, that's going to be a big play for them. But the rest of the team also setting up on that top lane. Doofenshmirtz also holding on here. Again, we're going to have to see if he actually decides to take the, you know, actually anyone here into my turn, the ultimate of this Yin. It's actually going to be very helpful for how they kind of approach this pressure under the turret. Revenge into the Rage, Zaman Force 2 under the turret. They're going to battle it out. Spider still alive for now, but has to get out of there. The stun comes through. He gets taken out into my turn, and he will fall. And now Doofenshmirtz still looking for Robin. They'll get a kill again. Twinkerbell on this Hellkurt, man. Finds another.
In the bottom lane as well. Almost a solo kill. Oh, no. He isn't able to find it. Oh, mid lane. Oh, this is Twinkerbell who jumps in, and then he resets again. So much action in game number 2. But so far it's been all South Africa.
What? Doofenshmirtz! Can he follow up with it? Oh, dang man.
My God.
There's so much action.
So much action, and so far Namibia, they've been able to get 1 kill, and it's only with a pick-off with the man advantage that they got up top. They can't walk up anywhere. If they show up on the map, it's gonna be Twinkerbell who punishes, Doofenshmirtz who punishes, heck, even Swag who can punish as well. And he's a tank, he's a frontliner. Up top, Virus. Also, he can just defend so well. He has a sustainability built in this kit with the constant dashes, and with the synchro vision, he does a lot of damage too. And then there's a Zaman Force to add on to that, right? So additional sustain and damage. Weak side, Harith. You don't see it a lot, but you're seeing it work very, very well.
You're gonna want to fight this. Once again, Darkness Falls gonna be dropped in. Virus could be in trouble though. He will fall into the turret. Jimmy now gonna be the next target. Doofenshmirtz goes in. That's 2 down here for Namibia. 1 down, it's only Virus, and they might look for more. Gonna charge up once again. Robin goes in. Wakao LeBron here to back him up, but they'll have to disengage. Twinkerbell on fire. Could possibly want some more from Wakao LeBron. Goes in with the stingers. Can't get the dash though through the wall. Doofenshmirtz though gets the flicker out. He's gonna get stunned up with the Eternal Guard and forced to back. But man, Wakao LeBron having a hard time.
Doofenshmirtz was so low. Oh, they want to go for more here up top.
Possibly do. Once again, Swag putting the pressure. Now under the turret. Spider is in trouble here. He's going to get sandwiched in. Nowhere to go, nowhere to move. Zaman Force going to be dropped down too, as Spider 911 will fall alongside the tier 1 turret on the top side. Twinkerbell still doing his thing, and Robin's gonna jump in, try to help Jimmy get this buff, the orange buff, to secure it. Still, the pressure comes through. Twinkerbell is a menace, and all he has is the Blade of Hephaestus right now.
Once he gets that DHS, he's going to be an absolute monster. I mean, he's already an absolute monster now in the 6th minute just with the Hephaestus, but imagine with a DHS, your Stingers. At this point, he can one-shot people, man. Once he gets that DHS, even D-Man will be taken out like he's nothing. Gambit's already setting up for this possible dive. Oh, penalty zone. My turn. 1v1 in that world.
We'll see if he's actually able to get the kill there. Has the backup from Twinkerbell, waiting patiently to see if he's able to survive. He goes in. D-Man will get taken down under the turret. And now on the top side, it's Swag and Virus holding it down against 4. Still not going to commit just yet. Spider unleashing, but they can't get the kill. They're too far behind right now dealing with this. So Virus versus 4. Robin going to go ahead and charge up, holds on to the revenge, but the flicker comes through. Doofenshmirtz again putting the pressure himself, and they save the turret. The tier 1 on the top side. It looks like Doofenshmirtz still might want to fight Spider. He was not able to get away. Doofenshmirtz gets the kill.
Super unlucky for that recall, just so close. And now Twinkerbell has gotten that item power spike. Look at that damage onto Jimmy. Oh my goodness. If a Feather of Heaven as well for Virus, the weak side of the map, already getting so much gold, and they were able to trade the tier 2 in the bottom lane. Oh, my turn, 1v1.
We got a nice little glimpse of the My Turn, so he's gonna fall. Jimmy having a rough game. Even with that Spirit of Destruction drop, and Spider does not want to follow that up. And we're finding ourselves in a similar position from the previous game. It just took a little bit longer here for South Africa. Doofenshmirtz just picks up a Malefic Roar to top it off.
I don't know what it is, man. I feel like for South Africa, they just really like the sound of your play-by-play, Naisu, because that's all they've been doing right now. They've been going for the action all around the map, and it's gone to a point where they got so much action that Namibia at this point cannot step foot out of their own base, out of their own turrets. If they step foot out, they need to be clumped up like this, like up top, you know, 3 members together. But even then, one jump from Twinkerbell with a DHS, and he's going to be able to one-shot somebody. If they clump up together, he might be able to one-shot both LeBron. Oh, another 1v1.
Oh, no, Jimmy. Jimmy gonna get taken down again. Doofenshmirtz gonna be in trouble. Some payback, though. Spider 911 gets a kill. But that's Doofenshmirtz's job. Look at him. He's 5-1-3.
There's a shutdown given, so it's still okay technically now. But then you can see Swag. Oh, Dark Knight falls.
Oh no, it's a Dark Knight again. Spider taken down alongside Demon. And Robin, all he could do was just watch as they fell down. Gonna go ahead and charge up. The Revenge does go in with Rage as well. Still, turret goes down tier 2. Robin now caught up in the front side. Curse of Blood gonna be dropped. The damage is there, and the pincers come through on top of it. Twinkerbell and Twinkerbell again. Virus will get the double. It's a wipeout. Spirit Destruction gonna be thrown out. Lord still has to be worked on the bottom side. Can they keep it together? Demon and Spider. Deadliest Catch gonna be dropped too. Penalty zone under the turret, already forcing him out. D-Man in trouble. To the Zaman Force, it's a double for Doofenshmirtz before he falls.
They can't even get a trade, right? Like an okay trade. They've been able to get Twinkerbell and Doofenshmirtz, but I think they're okay. They're assassins. They want to go and trade 2 for 1, 2 for 1, no problem. It'll still be worth it for them. But luckily for Namibia, they still have their base turrets intact. So technically they can still play within their own base. But even then, that's a big question. Can they survive the onslaught of damage, the layering that South Africa can provide towards Namibia? At this point, I feel like if Swag lands a Curse of Blood onto 2 members or more, that damage is going to bounce a bit too much for Namibia to handle. Virus can come in with the layering of damage, now Magic as well, and Doofenshmirtz can just steal anyone from that team. And once again, we find ourselves in a bit of a tough spot like we saw in match number 1 too. No Purifiers on the board for Namibia. So anyone who gets caught by the My Turn, they're gonna be gone. And just as I say it, Doofenshmirtz, okay, he doesn't want to go onto Robin, right? That's definitely not the right target to go for on the assassin. Oh, what happened?
Oh, like Twinkerbell He is just everywhere. He's everybody's nightmare. And it's darkness falls everywhere. Because the guy is 10-1-4. I think previously he picked the Malefic Roar. Now going to force a fight in the bottom side on top of the penalty zone. Eternal Guard going to be used. They do get the stun though. Spider unleashing will punish Gambit. So able to find something. That was 2 down for South Africa. Namibia going to fight back. They will lose the base turret though. So this could be a green light. If South Africa wants to start with this Lord, they possibly could. Swag's still up here. But Namibia looking to find some hope around the map. Doofenshmirtz again. Gonna find Robin. Not the target for him though. Still gonna put quite a bit of pressure on him himself in the 1v1, but no one committing to this Lord just yet. Swag will start it up. This might be the first Lord dance we see of the night.
Maybe. So far, it's still quite a massive goal lead that South Africa has, but like we mentioned in the draft, technically for Namibia, they can still play in a split push fashion, right? Spider 911, we see him up top already, just clearing that wave, and technically for South Africa, they can just pull the trigger around this area. Doofenshmirtz already into my turn.
Oh, Jimmy's still going to be alive, but the follow-up is there. They do get that stun with the Eternal Guard. Swag chasing him down. Deadliest Catch going to be used. Demon able to get the heal off too. So he survives from Tinkerbell on top of it. So right now though, they're still going to find themselves possibly losing this Lord. But Namibia able to withstand a lot of that damage, a lot of the forefront from South Africa. Now they have to get ready and prepped for a defense of their base.
Oh, to make it even worse, man, take a look at the items here. The 100 Strike, Malefic Roar, and the Endless Battle already done for Doofenshmirtz. Holy Crystal done for Virus, and for Tinkerbell, he's already on the way to that 4th item. I think we're so used to seeing the Hellcurt being used as a roamer that we're not really used to seeing the Hellcurt having these many items at the 13-minute mark, right? He has a Heptasies, DHS, and a Malefic Roar, and it does seem like he's building towards a 100 Strike for his last item to add on to that mobility in these skirmishes, in and out even faster than he's already able to, you know, produce. Now Robin in that bush.
Oh. Robin gonna jump in, gets the rage into that revenge, and now Deadliest Catch gonna be dropped. Spear Destruction though will miss its mark. D-Man goes down, and now Robin taking the brunt of the damage to the front side. Tinkerbell has revenge as he takes out Robin. And now down 2 members. Namibia, very difficult. They're gonna have to defend their base here. Down the 2 members. It's a 5 versus 3. Hunter Strike also just picked up from Tinkerbell. Ice set on that bottom turret, mid turret gonna be worked on as well. Lord still worked on. They could just focus on the crystal, and it looks like they're gonna do that. And they go in for it. And South Africa will sweep Namibia.
Another 2-0 in day number 1 of the African Regional Qualifiers. Swag, Tinkerbell, Virus, Gambit, and Doofenshmirtz absolutely obliterated through the forces of Namibia. With this damage output composition, they were brawling, they were skirmishing, they were dueling across the whole land of Dawn. And we're going to take a look at the highlights all the way from game number 1 first. In game number 1, it was so much more of the normal, the usual MLBB that we get to witness from the other regions that we're, you know, accustomed to. With the Black Dragon form, with these core fundamentals, securing neutral objectives with the Black Dragon form and the Heart Guard. And then utilizing that early lead to create the snowball. Obviously setting the pace and constantly just pushing it super fast with this early game composition that they have. Very good execution from Swag on the Roger as well. And for Jimmy on the Alpha, he wasn't really able to find any way to equalize on the board at all. For the Alpha, you need to have a snowball in the early game, and when the enemy team has a 7,000 gold lead at the 6th minute of the game, when they're already at a point where they can do anything, even under the turret, just dive you and, you know, have no respect for you, yet still win in the team fights, it's a big problem. We did see a little bit of, you know, glimmers of hope here and there for Namibia when we got to see the damage from the full barrage from Spider, but even then, it was definitely not enough in this game. He had to wait for the late game, but the late game never came through. Heck, even in the mid game, we didn't even get to see the mid game. It was still a very early stage of the game for Namibia, despite us getting into the 13th minute. They were so far behind. And in the second game, we saw the Namibia and the South Africa that we expected. The brawling gameplay from these compositions with the Yin Roam, the Hellcurt mid, the double assassin setup in the mid lane, and all the way from the 3rd minute of the game, chaos ensued. And obviously, it was South Africa that capitalized on the chaos with these assassins, with the mobility. And they were just so clean with the execution of these assassins, man. Constantly just pincering Namibia in these skirmishes, in these ganks as well. Spider, he did a good job to maneuver out of it, but when there's so many skill shots for you to dodge, you gotta just choose. Pick your poison. Which one do you want to dodge? And then Doofenshmirtz as well in the early game. Dude, it's so annoying. Even if he doesn't get the kill, right? Even if he just gets the my turn to just steal these members away, to isolate some of the other members for the rest of the South African members to take on the Namibian members, it just became so easy for all these assassins. And yes, we do see here and there that, you know, Namibia were able to get some kills on the board. It never really was valuable because they were always trading and losing out in the trades. Every single time, South Africa, they would lose 2 members, but they would get a trade on the base turret. They would lose 1 member, but they would get a kill on the jungler. And even here, right? It looks like it's a bad trade for RSA, but then you realize that's a Yin, that's not a jungler, that's a Yin roamer. So trading it in for a jungler, it's absolutely worth it. And when you have a tanky frontliner like Swag who can just bait out so many resources as early as the 9th minute, he's not taking any damage, even with the Curse of Blood, even with the Curse Blast. Wakao LeBron has a glowing wand, and that did nothing to South Africa. They were getting tickled. Swag took so many turret shots and somehow still survived in this skirmish. That's illegal, brother. I mean, really, to be able to take so many shots under the turret, and not any turret, it's a base turret, and survive. And ultimately, again, it was all those trades. In the bottom lane, again, Namibia, they were able to find this really good team fight, and this is, again, another glimmer of hope for them. But then you take a look up top, and they were able to utilize the chaos in the bottom lane to get a base turret, and that was a base turret in the far lane that enabled them to force out that Lord for free. And then Namibia, in the 13th minute, it was just desperate calls, desperate moves that they were making. They desperately needed a pick. But even then, even if they got Tinkerbell there, everybody else could still carry the game. I think that's the brilliance of the composition from South Africa. When you have so much damage dealers, so many damage dealers, everybody becomes a carry.
Yeah, it was like, I loved this lineup in game 2 just because it was kind of what we said, like to the point where, you know, we were talking about Mozkov, like why has he been slept on up until this point? And then he comes through and it's like, and then you pair it up with a Hellcurt, man. Like there was so much chaos and Doofenshmirtz as well. Like everything just worked out in a very well chaotic manner. Like if that can be said, you know, like they played around that part and that condition.
It's chaotic
really
good.
Well. Yeah, it's chaotic good. There you go. There it is. Chaotic good.
It's they just thrived in the chaos, right? It's controlled chaos. I think that was a term that we used for a team in Indonesia before.